Hey, it's me. And it's Friday. And I know you weren't expecting something from me in your feed today, but I'm trying something a little new. I've recently been doing some short interviews on our guest episodes to let you get to know our guests a little better. However, I want to be sure that the Sunday episodes are really accomplishing what the podcast is intended to do, which is prepare minds for worship. So, I'm not sure that Sundays are the best time for those interviews. Now, I don't know if the mini interviews will stick around and become a permanent fixture of the show, but when I'm able to fit them into the schedule, I'm going to plug those in the podcast feed on Fridays. That way, we can get to know our guests on Friday and get to know the Lord on his day. Clear as mud? Great. I thought so. Of course, if you have any feedback, send it my way. I'd love to hear from you. Anyway, our guest on Sunday will be Leo McKinley. I first met Leo over a decade ago when I was trying out for a congregation in his area, and we've kept in touch to varying degrees ever since. And after learning a little bit more about him, I know you'll appreciate him like I do. So, without any further ado, here's my chat with brother Leo McKinley. Hey Leo, welcome to the show. I'm excited to finally get some time to talk. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you for having me, by the way. I'm honored to be here as a part of your podcast. I know you've had some very impressive people here. And so I'm not sure if I quite live up to that same level of name. I went to Freed Hardeman for college down in Henderson, Tennessee. There you have to take one Bible class every semester. And so I have what amounts to close to a minor in Bible, but I never really intended to preach. I just got invited to preach one time somewhere, and it's just spawned from there that I preach just about every week, but at a different congregation. I'm not at a set congregation every week, and that's more of the space that I like because I'm a full-time math teacher at Paducah Tillman High School in Paducah, Kentucky, and I've been doing that for 18 years. So just concluded 18 years. I've been the department chair since 2018, and so that keeps me busy. But I'm grateful that I still get to scratch the itch of preaching as well.
Sure. Leo, on that note, has been nominated for and the recipient of several awards for being an outstanding educator. So, Leo, my first question for you is what does it feel like to be the best teacher in the world?
No, you'll have to ask somebody else that question that actually fits that title. But like it's a blessing to be able to teach. My dad passed away a year ago, and he was illiterate. And so I looked at how that brought a lot of challenges to his life. Being able to read or write really brought some challenges. And so being able to teach, and although I'm not teaching kids how to read or write at the high school level, especially teaching math, being able to teach and provide people with knowledge that my dad was not able to gain is what allowed my heart to fall in love with teaching.
Wow, it's amazing. It's really interesting how that came full circle for you.
Absolutely. And then on my mom's side, my mom did not go to high school as a student. She quit in 8th grade. And so it's really neat for them. They've told me this to have a son that's teaching.
Well, that's excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Leo, on that same note, we see teachers around the country that seem to be exiting the profession for a variety of reasons. What keeps you going back and keeps you passionate about educating young people?
It's the kids, and you're so right. There are studies out there that suggest that, most people that get out of education do so within the first 5 years that they've been in it. And so I had some struggles those first few years as well, but then as you sink your teeth into it more, you get to a point where it's economically, it's not even smart to get out of it because you don't want to start a new career at, let's say, 30 years old or something. But beyond that, being able to help students see that light bulb go off, being able to impart knowledge to kids, being able to help them achieve things that they didn't think were possible. All of that inspires me. Just being involved in the kids' lives. As a 40-year-old person that doesn't have any kids, I look at a lot of these kids as my own kids and have been fortunate to drop some of them off at college, to let some of them stay at my house whenever they didn't have another place to stay. So honestly, what keeps me in it is the kids. There are some rough days, but whenever you remember what your why is, it's easy to keep going and push through all of the frustrations that come.
Yeah, and I see you being tagged on Facebook and other platforms by a lot of those former students. And what I've really found encouraging about that, the common denominator is the positive impact that you've had on them. Can you speak to that a little bit and say, I guess, what does it mean for you to have them in a long lasting way look back and see the impact you've made actively in their lives?
That's a hard question for me to answer, Daniel, simply because I try not to sit back and think about it, because I don't want to get haughty or think that I'm doing more than what I actually am doing. It is very gracious of the students that have come and kept in touch with me or tagged me in pictures. I was just out the other 2 days ago, and I ran into two different students in two different instances within a matter of 30 minutes of each other.
Oh,
And
wow.
we were able to have a long conversation about, just reminiscing about things and whatnot. Being able to have some semblance of an impact on them is important because at the end of the day, a lot of these kids don't have male role models. And so being able to fill in the gap for some of them has been wonderful. But honestly, and I'm not trying to be rude to you, but I feel like the framing of your question is a little bit backwards because I feel like I'm benefiting by being able to be in their lives and them to include me in it.
Wow.
I've had I've had several students that have asked me to perform their wedding, that have kept me in touch whenever they've had kids being born, and that's all things where I feel like they're impacting my life more than I'm impacting theirs, and maybe it's a reciprocal thing there, but I'm certainly not going to try to take any credit. I've been blessed more than other teachers in the sense that my entire career I've never been married and I haven't had kids. So whereas other teachers have had to spend time with their personal family, I've been able to stretch myself out some and be at more of my students' games and activities and go to college events with them after they leave high school and whatnot. So I've been blessed.
Wow, I think that's an awesome way to think of it, and I appreciate you bringing out that perspective. So often I think we as the church can be really backwards in that, and we can sometimes view, well, the ultimate fulfillment of life is marriedness and kids, and we kind of lose sight of, well, there is an impact outside of that that I can have, and it's really neat to be able to see you have that impact on those kids.
Absolutely. I was just thinking the other day about that because I just turned 40 a week ago today. And I remember thinking to myself, being upset and frustrated that I don't have any kids. And then it dawned on me, I've had 2,000 kids at this point over the course of an 18-year career.
Wow.
And so like that's a lot of kids I've had.
Yeah. That's excellent. One more question for you before I let you go today, Leo. What encouragement do you have for those former students or other believers and fellow educators?
Oh goodness. I've tried to invite many of these kids to church over the years, and several have come. And that's what matters the most to me. Because at the end of the day, I tell my students this on the last day of school all the time. You're going to find somebody who's going to teach math to you better in a way that you understand better than I am, but you will not find another teacher that's going to love you to the level that I do. And I hope that that's something that sticks with these kids, the ones that I had way back in 2008 whenever I first began, and the ones that just graduated 2 weeks ago. I hope that they all understand that that love that I have for them does not dwindle over time. And as more kids come up, like sometimes it's easy to focus on the periphery of what you have here in front of you right now.
Yeah.
But like I want to remain a part of their life. And I want them to understand that, like if you leave this classroom and all I've taught you is math, I've failed at what I tried to accomplish because to me there's things that are more important than math,
Mhm.
such as their faith. Like, I want to, I wanna have that kind of lasting impact on these kids, and I know that teaching at a public school, it's hard to bring up faith, honestly, sometimes, but there are ways that you can bring it up without, directly talking about it sometimes.
Yeah.
For instance, whenever we start the school year, we'll play icebreaker games, those get to know you games, and I'll just, casually mention that I preach, and you will not believe how many times from that, like, little short mention that a kid, months later, years later even, will say something, reach out to me about religion. And that's what matters to me most. And
Mhm.
that's what I wanna leave the kids with,
Yeah.
is that I want you to understand math. I want us to have the best test scores possible, but at the end of the day, I want you to look at me as a Christian and someone who wants to connect with you beyond Paducah Tillman High School, but to connect with you on something that is more lasting, which is our souls and faith and a love for God.
Absolutely. That's an excellent perspective. Man, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Thank you for taking some time out of your morning to talk to me today. And I so appreciate it. And love you, brother, and all the things that you're doing and the things that you're about. I count myself blessed to have met you all those years ago. I appreciate Leo taking some time to talk to us, and I can't wait to share his thoughts with you on the Lord's Day. Thanks for listening. Thanks for spending some time with me on a Friday, and I'll see you Sunday.